stuck with me until one day in the late 1980s. There were secret notes, bloody shirt pieces, and attacks by people wearing masks. The Zodiac killer stayed out of sight in California for 44 years and avoided being caught. Now detectives say they have made a big discovery that changes everything. They found a man whose name, when taken out of the killer's codes, makes a secret message. Before he died, his gun collection was all over the place. People around him were afraid. Even his own wife thought he was guilty, but she was too scared to say anything. Her words changed everything when she finally did it. It all began on December 20, 1968. Becky Lou Jensen and David Faraday were on their first date. They were good kids. David was a school leader and an Eagle Scout. Betty Lou did really well in school. Their parents were told that night that they were going to a fair. But there wasn't a party. At 11:20 p.m., a driver found them dead on Lake Herman Road at a gravel stop. It was a famous lane for lovers. Their lives were cut short before they even began. It happened again after 6 months, the 5th of July, 1969. They were in a stopped car at Blue Rock Springs Park. Their names are Darlene Farron, 22, and Michael Maggio, 19. Someone shot them with a 9mm gun just after midnight. Darlene passed away, Michael lived. Even though he was hurt very badly, it came back to him that the man was short and heavy, at least 195 pounds. Then there was September 27, 1969. Near Lake Berryessa, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were taking it easy. A man wearing a black hood with a white cross and circle sign showed up. He tied them up, told them it was a theft, and then stabbed both of them. There were 10 times for Cecilia and 6 times for Brian. He even used a marker to write on their car door a list of all the times of his attacks. Cecilia died, but Brian did. After 2 weeks, on October 11, the killer did it again in San Francisco. A passenger was picked up in the city by Paul Stein, a cab driver who is 29 years old. That passenger shot him in the head in Presidio Heights. There was no quiet escape this time for the killer. He cut Stein's bloody shirt into a piece and sent it to a newspaper to show that it was really him. The letters had already begun by that time. 3 newspapers in California got strange letters on July 3 and 1, 1969. Each one came from a person who said they were the Zodiac. There was a piece of a hidden message, 408 symbols in total in each envelope. It was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times. There was a threat in the letter. He would start killing over the weekend if the newspapers didn't put the code on the front page. Fear quickly spread. The police were rushing around. The readers were too. What the killer wrote wasn't what shocked people the most. Who found the answer? People from Salinas named Donald and Betty Harden, who are both teachers, read the letters. They didn't have any special training or FBI tools. All they had were smarts and time. She thought that the word kill might be in the letter. She was right. That guess helped get the pattern out. They were able to break the whole 408 symbol code in just a few days. Worse than the threat, though, was what the message said. It didn't give away the killer's name like he said it would. It said, "I like killing people because it's so much fun." The note said that people who hunt are like wild animals. He even talked about the most dangerous game, which is a short story about people being hunted for fun. There was a strange mess of letters at the end of the message. That part has never been explained by anyone. The CIA and FBI also tried to figure out the code. They failed, but in less than a week, 2 teachers from Salinas did it first. That shocked everyone and proved one thing: the Zodiac was more than just a killer. He wanted to be seen. In November 1969, after a few months, the Zodiac sent out another puzzle. This one had 349 words. It looked even stranger than the first one. No one could figure it out for 51 years. Not the FBI or the best people who break codes. Many people from around the world tried. All of them failed. After that, 3 guys finally got it in December 2020. An American, a Belgian, and an Australian named David Oranchak, Jarl van Eyck, and Sam Blake used computers and math to figure it out. They found that the cipher used diagonal lines and strange spelling to make it hard to read. What did it say? "Hope it's a lot of fun for you to try to catch me," it began. Then he laughed at the idea of going to the gas chamber and said that it would take him to heaven. He said that in the next life he would have slaves. It was weird, cold, and dark. He didn't say his name again, though. The FBI said that the answer was correct in December 2020. Even though it didn't solve the case, it did bring more answers to it. The Zodiac sent more than just letters. He sent threats, pictures, and plans for bombs. He sent a drawn picture of a bomb that was supposed to blow up a school bus one time. There was a map in another letter that came with a code called Z32. The directions talked about radians and inches from Mount Diablo, which is only clear to people who know a lot about maps. He also sent the Z13 cipher, which had only 13 characters after "My name is." A lot of people thought this would finally show who he was, but it was too easy to figure out. A lot of people now think he never meant to say his name. People were the best prey, and all of his letters came back to that thought. He said it was more fun to kill than to hunt wild animals. He said the most dangerous game, over and over. People weren't just scared by what he said. They shut down schools, kids stayed at home with their parents, police paid attention to the threats. But they never found the bomb. Still, his work got darker over time. The Z13 and Z32 are the only two ciphers that haven't been cracked yet. It's short, the Z13. It's only 13 characters long, but it's still a secret. That strange map that came with the Z32 may have something to do with a plan to bomb something, or even with Donalas's absence. Faisal Zarawi, a French engineer, said that he had found hints using the same method that was used to break the 340-character code. He believes it points to a place close to Lake Tahoe. Some people think the codes might not be real and were made to waste time, scare people, or confuse the cops. Over 40 experts, including former FBI agents, police officers, military veterans, forensic scientists, and journalists, worked non-stop for more than 10 years to solve the Zodiac killer case. They did not guess. They looked for clues all over California. They looked over old crime reports, double-checked ballistic and forensic data, and talked to people who had been ignored for decades. They even went on long hikes deep into the High Sierra to find buried guns based on what they were told. The goal of every hour of work was to show that Gary Francis Post was the Zodiac killer. They didn't begin with nothing. They began with Post and worked their way down. He was used to compare every piece of proof. Pieces of shells, fingerprints, and even DNA from his old clothes and family members. This team didn't give up, even when police offices wouldn't give them important DNA samples. They found new crime scenes and made the Zodiac's plan bigger by adding places from San Diego to Lake Tahoe. After that, they found the pictures. Post lived in a house with a dark room. There were a lot of shots inside, but scars stood out, deep and clear on his face. The marks looked like those in sketches from the 1996 S that showed the Zodiac police. In 1959, Post was in a terrible car accident that killed another airman. The accident left Post with those scars. He had scars on his body until he died at age 80. The people who broke the case said that the scars weren't just the same shape, size, and placement. They said there was no doubt about the match. First, there was a face that matched the famous killer's picture that could be seen. There was more, though. Two people were attacked by the Zodiac at Lake Berryessa in 1969. Near the scene, size 10.5 boot prints in the style of military shoes were found. Post did wear that size, not just think about it. Pictures of him proved it. He wore boots made for the army. That information wasn't made up. He had been in the Air Force. The prints on other Zodiac pictures were the same. Besides that, a paint-covered wristwatch discovered at another murder scene fit Post's background. He had been a house painter for many years. It all started to fit: boot size, job, habits. After that came the codes. In addition to killing, the Zodiac made fun of the police with puzzles, letters that didn't make sense, and anagrams. No one could figure them out for years, but Jen Buchholz, a detective on the team who used to work as a counterintelligence agent in the army, tried something different. In one of the Zodiac's codes, she took out the letters in Gary Francis Post. There was a message hidden in what came out. You had to know Post's name for it to work. The people who broke the case say that this wasn't an accident. In a way, Post left a secret that could only be found by someone with the right key. The most scary part wasn't that, though. At least 6 people say Post told them he was the Zodiac killer before he died in 2018. There were real admissions, not just rumors. There were sworn court statements for 3 of them. There were neighbors, friends, and even someone who said Post tried to train him to be a killer. The worst part was when Post's wife supposedly told neighbors that she had always thought he was guilty but was too afraid to say anything. Post was born in Potsdam, New York on November 8, 1937. It is a quiet town. Glenn, his dad, was 27 years old at the time. Elva, his mother, raised him and his 2 brothers. His early years didn't show any signs of the darkness that would come next. He grew up in a quiet, snowy town close to the Canadian border that was better known for its schools than for crime. In the late 1930s, America had just come out of the Great Depression and was now in the middle of World War II. Life was hard, but Gary's youth seemed normal. That is what scares me about the rest of his story. Gary joined the U.S. Air Force when he was a young adult, and that's where things went very wrong. He wasn't just another new member, he learned more advanced techniques for using codes and ciphers. Military methods for breaking codes from that time were later found in the letters of the Zodiac killer. He also learned how to do complicated math, read maps, and spot patterns while working as a radar specialist. These skills weren't common and they seemed to match what the Zodiac was doing with his letters. He also studied communication and monitoring systems to learn how to avoid being caught. This gave him the perfect excuse to do something much worse. Everything changed in 1959. Gary was 21 years old and worked near Rockville, Indiana. We were drunk and riding in a Jeep with another airman one night. They crashed into the wall of a train tunnel. The driver died right away. Gary almost died, but he made it. His head was broken, his face was ruined, they thought he might not make it. He was in the hospital for weeks and had several surgeries. All of his teeth had to be taken out. For the rest of his life he wore false teeth. On his temples deep scars appeared. They had scars that matched the Zodiac sign. People close to him saw something else after that crash. Gary turned mean and cold and he was sometimes violent. Back then, people didn't understand that kind of change. Now though, it sends up red flags. After the transfer, he would be totally alone. Gary was sent to Thule Air Base in Greenland by the Air Force. It's only 750 miles from the North Pole. It got so cold that it was 30 degrees Fahrenheit. During the winter, there wasn't any sun for months. There was only snow, radar screens, and quiet.